1917 heard the tramp of marching feet in every city, hamlet, and town of America. Armies and the beat of marching feet was changing the tempo of industry. The young manpower of America was marching off to war in the belief that they were making the world safe for democracy and that this was the war to end all wars. A motion picture record was made of one of these parades as it marched down the main street of Lincoln, Nebraska's capital city. What would the soldier of 1917 and 18 have thought? Could he have foreseen another world war, fought for the same principles, only 25 years later? The Nebraska football team of 1918 marched with other organizations. National Guard companies were preparing to leave. They received their first taste of war when they got their shots preliminary to being shot at. A good illustration was the local guard company at Tecumseh, Nebraska, encamped at the local county fairgrounds as soldiers waited in line to be vaccinated. Meanwhile, the old soldiers, as the veterans of the Civil War were affectionately known, sat in the shade of the courthouse designing the proper strategy for winning the war. Later, the Guard Company lined up to receive the farewells of the veterans of the 1860s, many of whom had sons, nephews, or grandsons in the company. Silent motion pictures taken more slowly in the old days show faster today. The same feverish preparation for war were going on in all communities as those recorded of Old Company M at Red Oak, Iowa, later to become a part of the famous Rainbow Division. There is no preparation so intense nor emergency so great to prevent the American doughboy from having fun. The blanket toss was afterwards abolished when too many injuries resulted. National Guard Company H of the 6th Nebraska Infantry at Chadron made long hikes into the adjacent hills as part of their seasoning. They were also taught to prepare their own mess while on these hikes. Norfolk Company I, also of the 6th Regiment Nebraska Guards, like other companies, intermingled their strenuous marching drills with sports and diversions such as boxing and the blanket toss. Nebraska City's Company L of the 5th Nebraska Regiment took much instruction in the British bayonet drill. Falls City, Nebraska, like other towns, staged a great farewell parade for their boys of Company E of the 6th Regiment. A man from the Middle West was destined to be the first American officer to enter Berlin after the 1918 armistice. He was Brigadier General Harries of Omaha, former head of the power company of that city. Just as today, many of the women of 1917 and 18 volunteered for the Women's Motor Corps and learned to drive and repair autos and trucks, as did these women of Lincoln, Nebraska. Due to his pacifist leanings, the great commoner and Nebraska's most famous son, William Jennings Bryan, had resigned as Secretary of State in President Wilson's cabinet. He returned to Lincoln in the fall of 1917 to assist in a Liberty Loan drive. To further promote interest in the Liberty Loan drive, Secretary of Treasury McAdoo toured the country, speaking in its behalf as he did at Grand Island, Nebraska. Carter Glass, the succeeding Secretary of the Treasury in President Wilson's cabinet, spoke to a great crowd in Omaha and presented a captured German helmet to Miss Linnea Forsland for designing the best victory loan poster in the Omaha contest. The crowd was then shown one of the old Army tanks as it performed in one of the city's parks. A World War I tank paraded Lincoln streets to aid in the sale of victory bonds. The old Fort Omaha Balloon School was to make many a doughboy air-minded. The countryside was often thrilled by a chase after a runaway balloon whose dragging cable would tear up fences, transmission lines, and small buildings. Cheers were mixed with tears as the boys of the Council Bluffs Guard Company returned home. That company was a part of the famous Rainbow Division, composed of selected National Guard companies from every state of the Union. Many were the arms and legs that were missing in this gallant company. Private Murrow Hay of Crawford County, Iowa, was the first American to meet the sacrifice of death in France. A returning troop train had bad luck as it toppled from the tracks into the swollen Platte River near Ashland, Nebraska. Fortunately, no lives were lost, but some of the soldiers had to be confined for a while to hospital beds. An enthusiastic homecoming was recorded at Shenandoah, Iowa. In 1920, General Pershing returned from France to his native Nebraska. At Omaha, the national reception was continued for the commanding general. The name of Pershing was on everyone's lips. He was the man of the hour. All this idolization and hero worship had little visible effect on old Blackjack as his men knew him. Nothing shook his poise. The general visited sick and wounded soldiers in Omaha Hospital. In his home city of Lincoln, a reception was held in General Pershing's honor and an honorary degree bestowed in the same old armory at the University of Nebraska, where in the early 90s he had been commandant of cadets. Pershing's popularity had become so great that a campaign was started in his hometown of Lincoln to run him for president on the Republican ticket, which met with little success. 21 years later, Omaha honored the general by naming one of its newest and most beautiful boulevards for him, marking it with a monument in commemoration. In the general's absence, his sister, Miss May Pershing, acted for him.